in the global index for freedom of press. Censorship was the order of the day. Most of the mainstream media, newspapers and magazines were under the wrath of emergency. Some were threatened to be thrown out of publications and others were put in jail. In a series of posts on X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi remarked, "Today marks 50 years since one of the darkest chapters in Bharat's democratic history, the imposition of the emergency. The people of India mark this day as Samvidhan Hatya Divas. On this day, the values enshrined in the Indian Constitution were set aside. Fundamental rights were suspended. Press freedom was extinguished and several political leaders, social workers, students and ordinary citizens were jailed. It was as if the Congress government in power at that time placed democracy under arrest." PM Modi called it the darkest chapters in India's history. Congress chief Mallikarjun Kharge in his counter said that the BJP is rattled by the Congress's Samvidhan Bachao Yatra. Home Minister said that the emergency was imposed to protect power, condemn emergency. Congress in their counter said that the BJP is hiding its own failures and repeating lies. The cabinet condemned the imposition of emergency. Congress leader Udit Raj said that the emergency was not too bad. BJP chief went on to attack the Congress party, saying they operate with the same dictatorial mindset. Congress leader Udit Raj called it a golden period for Dalits, tribals and the poor. The big question we asked tonight, did the Congress party use emergency to alter the Samvidhan? Does this charge of an undeclared emergency even hold any base or water in the current times? Why do we ask whether or not the Congress party, which is saying Samvidhan Bachao, were the first and perhaps altered the very DNA of the Samvidhan? Let's understand this. The 42nd Amendment of the Indian Constitution, passed during the emergency period in 1976 under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's Congress-led government, is one of the most controversial and far-reaching amendments in Bharat's constitutional history. Let's look at the key facts. It was passed in 1976, came into effect on the 3rd of January 1977. National emergency lasted between 1975 and 1977 when civil liberties were curtailed. The major provisions of the 42nd Amendment were: 1. The very preamble of our Constitution was altered. The words socialist and secular were added to the preamble in 1975. The original Constitution does not have the words socialist and secular in its preamble. So the preamble was changed when democracy was in jail, when civil liberties were curtailed. Then this happened. Unity of the nation to unity and integrity of the nation. These changes were made. Strengthening the central government also happened. More power was shifted to the center, reducing states' autonomy. Who then hurt the federal structure of the country? The question still remains, because an apology till date has never come from the Congress party. It also gave the parliament primacy over the judiciary in certain matters. Judiciary was curtailed. It curbed the power of the Supreme Court and the High Courts to review constitutional amendments, declared that laws made to implement directive principles of state policy or the DPSPs cannot be invalidated even if they violate fundamental rights. The term of the Lok Sabha and state assemblies was increased from 5 to 6 years. It was later reversed by the 44th Amendment in 1978 under the Janata Party. New fundamental duties, 10 new fundamental duties were added to the Constitution. Article 51A, inspired by the Soviet Union, the then Soviet Union. All India Judicial Service proposal authorized the creation of an All India Judicial Service. This move, this 42nd Amendment and also Article 32A, received a ton of criticism. It was called the mini Constitution because it altered the basic structure of the Constitution. So can that Congress party 50 years down the line walk on the streets to say hum Samvidhan bachane nikle hain is a question many are asking. Seen as an attempt by the Congress party to centralize power and weaken democratic institutions. Several of its provisions were later rolled back by the 44th Amendment in 1978 under the Janata Party government. But here's what the Janata Party could not do. or did not do. They did not restore the basic structure of the preamble. The words socialist and secular, the words integrity, in unity and integrity of the country, they were not removed. The original framework of the preamble was not restored even under the Janata Party governments. So who altered the Samvidhan? Who is fascist or autocratic? Who has still not apologized and who needs to apologize? Let's dive into this face-off. Shazia Almi, national spokesperson of the BJP, Sanjay Jha, political analyst, leans away from the BJP. Let's say that. My namaste, Jai Hind to the lady and the gentleman. I look forward to a sane, engaging, interesting debate. Shazia Almi, you're demanding an apology from the Congress party on a day when the Congress party says, well, there is an undeclared emergency in Bharat.
So let's go beyond words and semantics. Let's talk about the darkest chapter of our constitutional history. Yes, let's go on to remember as to what the clampdown of personal liberty in an independent India meant and what those years and months were like. We are not just talking about 50,000 political activists and social workers being thrown into prisons, subjected to police brutality. We're not just talking about the entire censorship dictating the terms and condition of the press of India. We are talking about the complete travesty and the games that were played, gimmicks played by a dictatorial mindset of a prime minister called Indira Gandhi, who, having seen how she losing her popularity, resorted to a complete totalitarian manner in which she decided to play with the constitution and its basic structure. Yes, if you look at the 42nd Amendment, yes, if you look at all the what entails the mini constitutions, so to speak, and the compromises made with the constitutional integrity of the constitution, are something that we should be discussing over and over again, lest we slip into it in near future, in remote future, wherever. So I think it's very important to remember those days, and yes, never once categorically, unequivocally has the Congress party actually sought an apology for playing with the constitution and its basic principle and its essential structure to the people of India. There have been random interviews here and there, off the cuff remarks, but there has never been a real stated policy of apology and beyond regret, citing the clampdown that we saw in those years, the darkest years of our history. So yes, I do ask of my friend Sanjay Jha, don't you think its apology is a high time coming, not to the BJP, not to anyone else, not to members of opposition, including the same who are part of India Alliance, very much, who were also thrown into the jail, and all those who came out of the JP movement and all the Lohiyaites, so to speak, but also to the people of India for what it did to our country and to its citizens.
Sanjay Jha.
Firstly, Shazia, the truth is that Mrs. Gandhi's emergency lasted officially for 21 months. Then she called for elections. She lost that election. Under Mr. Modi and the government that we have had since 2014, we have had an unofficial, undeclared emergency, which is dangerous because under the garb of democracy, you have become a brutal authoritarian regime. You have been stealthy, you have been surreptitious, you have been sly. You have misled the people of India. And I'll give you examples, Shazia. Number one, do you remember the Supreme Court commenting on what happened in the Chandigarh mayoral poll? They said it's a blatant and a brazen murder of democracy. Do you remember your Nishikant Dubey, who threatened the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice of India, saying they are trying to create a civil war and a religious war? That's the respect you have for the Supreme Court that you're quoting. India has been under an unofficial emergency for 132 months and counting. is dangerous. The world is talking about it. Do you remember what the Supreme Court said on your bulldozer justice? It shocks our conscience. Do you know what the Supreme Court said on electoral bonds? An act of criminality for fundraising is exactly what it became. One of the biggest scams that India has ever seen. Shazia, you are somebody who belongs to a minority community. I know you're part of BJP. But will you endorse Sharbat Jihad? Will you endorse Love Jihad? Ghar Wapsi? Do you realize that now lynching murders are happening every day? And unlike Muhammad Akhlaq, they are not even being written about anymore. There is no debate, there is no newspaper coverage, there is nothing. Under Mr. Modi, you have normalized mob violence in this country. And talking of violence, can we talk of Manipur? Can I ask you, Manipur is such an integral part of our country, but you are treating it as if it's some distant neighborhood? Why hasn't the Prime Minister gone there where over hundreds have died, over 60,000 are homeless for 2 years? And the Prime Minister is missing in action. What have you reduced the ED, CBI and income tax to, Shazia? You've been part of Aam Aadmi Party which talked of reforms. What has this trifecta become? You know, when we call it a washing machine, I feel sad for the officers who work there, because I'm sure there are many honest people there. But you have made a mockery of the IPS and the IAS and even the IFS officers. You mocked a Vikram Mishri. You mocked an Himanshi Narwal. I mean, there is a limit to how BJP has degraded our political confabulations. What have you done? You suspended MPs in Parliament, over 140, and then you passed bills.
Sanjay,
You passed a
you've given
criminal
an eloquent
amendment bill
speech and
with
everything
146
else,
MPs
but
in
how
suspension.
your party
Can I
or the
speak without
party
an
you
interruption?
are
It's
representing
not
right
fair.
now...
Anand, this is not fair.
No,
One
you've been
minute.
speaking...
Anand, this is not fair.
Shazia, let me give him another 30 seconds.
It has no bearing on
Give-
what we are speaking.
Give him another 30
This is not
seconds.
fair, yeah.
Let him make his
Yeah, but
argument.
it has no bearing,
Yeah.
Sanjay ji. It has
Whether
no
it-
bearing
whether-
whatsoever
whether-
on
please,
the facts that I was
please.
bringing out on emergency.
One
And yes,
minute,
and all
one
of
minute,
these,
one
I
minute.
must tell you, the track record of Congress, which will
One
leave
minute,
you
Shazia ji.
blushing
Shazia
and
ji.
running.
Shazia ji,
Because
Shazia
look
ji,
at
Shazia
right
ji.
wing, if you see what you've done to minorities...
Shazia ji.
if
But
you-
the BJP is rattled, obviously.
No, no, no.
I'm
no,
just very flummoxed.
No. It's not even flummox. See, the viewers are
Carry
watching.
on. Carry on if you have
Shazia
anything
ji,
more
the
to
viewers
say.
are watching.
Apart from
Who's
what
making
is the
sense?
topic right now,
Yeah,
you must-
who's making
it's
sense
your-
and who's not?
it's
Let
your
the viewers
call.
also decide that. But let's just give him 30 seconds to wind up his argument and then please counter. See.
Yeah. And by the way, the India has become the misinformation and disinformation capital of the world, spreading fake news, inspired by the British and dividing our society, making a mockery of India's constitution, passing money bills when they should be debated in parliament under another guise. You have passed budget without a conversation. You have
Sir, you'll
imprisoned
have to yield.
people by giving them threats. I mean, you know, Anand, you mentioned about secular and socialism being included in the constitution. Why is the BJP against secularism? They
No,
have
no,
been
one
talking about
minute.
that.
Okay.
Now you'll have to
Hey,
yield.
just
No,
politics.
Sanjay ji, you'll have to
I
yield.
mean, I've heard enough.
Yeah.
It's
Sanjay ji,
nothing-
you'll have to yield. One, the point is, sir, I didn't say that it was included and I don't have an issue of it being included, but it was not included with the collective will of the people. It was included when democracy was in jail and civil liberties were arrested. That's what happened. And you altered the DNA. When I say you, the Congress party altered the DNA without the will of the people, and that's what is brutal and fascist, sir. And you talk about the BJP today, you make an argument that they have crossed all limits, sir. The limits of the BJP arguably have not even breached from where the Congress started, sir. So the Congress is far ahead in this. And I'll tell you why. I'm just reading a passage. Shahjah ji, please allow me and to read this. Indira Gandhi's Attorney General told the Supreme Court, quote, government can kill anyone illegally, unquote. Why we should not forget the emergency. Now, detention without grounds was the core of emergency powers. 10 high courts had ruled against it. The matter had come to the Supreme Court. On December 16, 1975, Justice H.R. Khanna decided to confront the Attorney General, pointing out that life, quote, life, is also mentioned in the right under Article 21. Justice Khanna asked him, would the government's argument extend to it also? The attorney had no escape, and yet without a pause he replied, even if life was taken away illegally, courts are helpless, he said. Justice Khanna would not leave him. He decided to fix him and make the government naked, and he asked him, if during the emergency a police officer because of the personal enmity killed another man, will there be no judicial remedy? Pat came the reply from Mr. Day, the Attorney General.
Anand, why aren't you
It
letting
may,
the
no,
BJP
quote,
speak?
it
Why
may
are you
shock your,
speaking on
no,
behalf
sir,
of the
it may shock your conscience,
you
it shocks
speaking on
mine,
behalf of the
but
BJP?
no proceedings can be taken in a court of law on that score, consistent with my earlier submission that there would be no judicial remedy in such a case so long as the emergency lasts. And four judges accepted this argument.
Can I answer you? Can I answer you?
Somewhere
Give me
where
30 seconds,
the
I'll answer
BJP's limits
Do you
end
know-
looks
do
like
you
the
know-
Congress's limits began at that time. Shazi Almi,
Yeah.
respond to the charge that at that time they declared the emergency.
So, yes,
Right now BJP is not declared, but
you
there
know,
is an
Sanjay Jha, Mark Twain said this, that I went through many things in life and many things affected me. And then he said some of which actually happened. So what has actually happened and what is being imagined as narrative to be bandied around to counter facts that have actually happened, that have shaken the fabric of our democratic integrity of our country is what I'm talking about. And let me sift facts from fiction and from all that is going on in your head as arsenal to use against Modi government. You want to talk about minorities? Let me tell you, for the very first time, there is a government that has actually looked at the real interests of minorities instead of treating them as election fodder or vote banks. For the first time, the government schemes for their welfare, whether it's Awas Yojana or Mudra Yojana or something simple like toilets, has reached to Muslims and with the beneficiaries being 30 to 40% Muslims, despite the fact that they're only 14% of the total population. You gave many names and you talked about how judiciary has been acting. We all know what you did to Justice Shah. The whole world knows how you declined the CGI ship, the Chief Justice that he deserved to be in this position for 2 months only because he was the lone dissenting judge in the famous ADM Jabalpur versus Shubhanshu Shukla case, where he said when it comes to liberty and personal liberty of every citizen, it cannot be contained by the idea of the Article 352 when he talked about internal disturbance, citing it to clamp down personal liberties. So let me tell you that. And you've mentioned very many facts here. What is undeclared emergency compared to declared emergency? When you talk about emergency, we're giving you facts and figures. Tell me in undeclared emergency in the last 11 years that you talk about, only because you have nothing else to say for yourself, how many journalists have been clamped down? In fact, every day you come here, speak against the government, use the choicest, vilest language against the Prime Minister, and what happens to you? When it comes to freedom of expression, we see it day after day in all the TV debates, which shows a robust democracy in action, and we are proud of it. When you look at judicial processes, you talked about some cases, we can talk about many others, and in which equally BJP has been indicted, and you just said that. You in fact quoted when it came to electoral bonds and others, saying what? Saying that nobody is interfering with the judicial processes, unlike what Congress party did. Can I start telling you as to what all has happened, whether it's Naveen Chawla or MS Gill or Justice HM Beg or even KP Balakrishnan, and all the judgments that have been given. And let's talk about, of course, the former president, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, who did not even wait to sign the promulgation of emergency papers, didn't raise an eyebrow, didn't take it to the parliament. What are you comparing us with? You are comparing this, the most robust, most amazing form of democracy to the darkest times of democracy.
Okay, thank you for yielding, Shazi Almi. Sanjay ji, you know I respect you a lot and it's not personal, but sir, you spoke your mind within the Congress party. Look what that led to. So, it's quite rich coming from the Congress party that they are not autocratic. Dr. Tharoor spoke his mind. Look what's happened to him. Well, all the people, G23, the entire grouping, what's happened thereafter. So, how many years did they actually democratically have an election within the Congress party? So, there are allegations which stand with the Congress, and if what happened in the emergency is wrong from somebody who's an upholder of democracy, Sanjay ji, then shouldn't the party that repent? Please tell me, did Mr. Rajiv Gandhi not say that if I need to impose emergency, I will? Was there not successive endorsement of emergency saying it's good? Do you agree with Mr. Udit Raj who says emergency was good? Please, your turn, sir.
Okay. Now that you have asked me the questions, let me answer you. The Congress party, by the way, has officially apologized for the emergency. Narendra Modi's government never will, because they survive on bulldozing all institutions,
Where is the
including,
apology?
let me tell you, Anand, including the mainstream media.
So when
and
did they
I will
apologize?
say it on
Sorry
your
to
show.
interrupt.
Please do not interrupt me. Please do not interrupt
please
me.
tell us.
Let's have a fair.
Okay.
Let's
please,
have a fair
please
and a
complete
civilized conversation.
Please complete
Yeah?
and then tell us when did they apologize. Thank you.
Including the mainstream media. I am going to tell you, if India's mainstream media had questioned this government, Mr. Modi's government would have been history in 2019 itself. That's exactly what I want to point out. Here are a couple of pointers. Operation Lotus, where an MLA stock exchange is created, blatantly resort politics is played. It's like a joke. It's like watching a Netflix show. The BJP is toppling governments left, right, and center with threats and intimidation. And we are calling ourselves the mother of democracy. By the way, I have been quoting the Supreme Court, not politicians. What did the Supreme Court say, Anand, on the
About
issue
the
of the
CBI
Tamil Nadu
in
governor?
2012.
Why are you interrupting me, my friend? Let me speak.
Sorry, I was completing your sentence, sir. So
No,
please
don't.
carry
You know,
You're
it's
talking
a
about
way of
Supreme
talking,
Court,
right? You
don't
can
want to
come
talk
when I'm
about
done,
HR
right?
Carry on, sir.
So here is my point.
You don't want to talk about
again,
HR
now you allow
Khanna.
him.
I told
Shahzaji,
I mean,
allow
can you
him
talk
another
about
minute.
Supreme Court and not talk about HR Khanna?
Please allow him another 90 seconds. Then please respond. Ji.
No,
Not
I
90
want to
seconds.
know
She
about
spoke for
HR
5
Khanna,
minutes.
the lone dissenter.
She spoke and she's still
The
speaking.
lone dissenter
Ma'am,
who
please
was
yield.
not allowed to become
Ma'am,
chief
please
justice.
You can lower
Ma'am,
a
please
veto.
yield. Ma'am, please yield.
You can lower a
He
veto.
heard you.
Indira
No,
Gandhi.
1 minute. Shahzaji, he heard you silently. I was the one who intervened. I jumped in. So please let him
Yeah, but,
complete.
you know,
90
I'm
seconds.
not-
Give him 90
he's going
seconds.
on talking about the Supreme
Okay,
Court,
so
but
we
not talking
all
about HR
know
Khanna
at the
all.
moment what the Supreme Court had to say on the behavior of the Tamil Nadu governor. We all know in Maharashtra what the Supreme Court had to say about the Maharashtra governor, of how these people were blatantly violating constitution. Can you imagine that this government actually threatened the Tamil Nadu government by saying, we will not give you the aid that is due to you until you comply with these orders? That's called cooperative federalism. That's called cooperative unity.
Sanjay ji.
I mean, this is a government. 1 minute. Can I finish?
Ji.
Look at the independent ranking of this government on press freedom, on the number of RTI, the way have diluted RTI. Why is the Modi government so scared of truth? Why is this government went to the Supreme Court and said, individuals do not have the right to their own bodies. It went against our right to privacy. It went against the right to our fundamental rights. And therefore, I'm going to tell you, Anand, this is a government that at core is insecure. We are
Okay,
a
1 minute.
hybrid
Please,
democracy.
please.
We
Yeah,
are
let
an
him complete. Let him
elected
complete.
autocracy.
I'm very-
We are a
Anand,
democratically
just wanna make 2
elected
points, small
dictatorship. That's what we are today.
Okay.
We have been
Sanjay ji,
reduced
Sanjay ji,
to a
Sanjay ji.
British model of
Sanjay ji,
emperor.
now-
They have an
थोड़ा सा
emperor.
कहना
We don't have
चाहूंगा
a prime
आपसे,
minister. We have an emperor.
मुझे बोलने
Okay,
दीजिएगा।
1 minute. Sir,
आप
this
अगर
is a,
देखेंगे
this
Justice
person,
एन रे जो थे, जो चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया रहे हैं 73 से 77 तक, उन्होंने किसको सुपर सीट किया था? उन्होंने सुपर सीट किया था जस्टिस शेलात को, हेगडे को और जस्टिस ग्रोवर को। क्यों उनको बनाया गया था? क्योंकि जब केशवानंद भारती केस हुआ था, and it was opined that you cannot alter the basic structure. Those 3 judges had ruled against the government, which is exactly why A.N. Ray was appointed. ADM Jabalpur case, very famous case, we should talk about it, we should know about it. What happened to Justice H.R. Khanna? He was a lone dissenting judge who said no even during the citing of section 352, which is internal disturbance. You cannot bring down or take away the basic rights of a citizen, which is liberty, the personal liberty. And what happened to him? So we all remember how Justice M.H. Baig was made CJI in 77, superseding Justice Khanna, only punishing Khanna because he stood up to the totalitarian and fascist attitude of Indira Gandhi and the Congress party. And I think these are very important things to be talked about.
Okay.
My friend, Sanjay Jha talks eloquently about various judgments that have come through. Yes, we are proud of the fact that we have a judiciary in place that cannot be compromised. And the very fact that you had to cite these judgments, where even the ruling party and certain states where BJP is in power has been pulled up, which is exactly what the judiciary must do. But can you compare it to the times of Indira Gandhi, when even the judiciary was not allowed to be? Not just media, not just civil society, not ordinary citizen. And can we talk about forced sterilizations? Can we talk about what happened during what Sanjay Gandhi was up to? Can we even talk about a president who just was ready to just sign was at the beck and call of the Prime Minister, who was bloodthirsty for power and compromised even the independence and the sovereignty of a country by making it into a dictatorship run government? Just imagine, those are very difficult times. And more than 50,000 people, we have an Urdu newspaper from Kanpur, Siyasat Jadid. And my paper was shut down. Of course, it was many years back. But that's how brutal it was. And we do not ever want to go there. So it wasn't just 1947 that we fought. It is 1947 and 77. So we have to make sure we don't go there. So do not preach to us about Samvidhan and the federal structure and what have you.
Right.
You have a lot to learn from, and please give me up to place where this was actually cited by your party, that there was an apology in place.
Well, if we randomly search even now, viewers, you can do that yourself. No, viewers, you can do that. Has the Congress party or which Congress leader has apologized for imposing emergency in Bharat? The response is, as of now, no senior Congress leader has issued a formal apology for imposition of emergency in India from 1975 to 77. In fact, several BJP leaders, including Ravi Shankar Prasad, JP Nadda, have repeatedly criticized the Congress for never apologizing. Interestingly, this is what the search says. Interestingly, Rajiv Gandhi, Indira Gandhi's son and later Prime Minister, once defended the emergency as necessary, and the party has largely maintained that stance over the decades, so on and so forth. This is I've just searched it, sir. This is what it says. The other thing, sir. How did the entire emergency start, sir? Because a Prime Minister decided she will not listen to the courts. She wanted the courts to be taught a lesson. And you are talking about respect of courts. How many times was Article 352 used under Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi, and how many times has Article 352 been imposed in the last 11 years under PM Narendra Modi? Please tell me. Then, what was the first time an elected government was displaced, sir? When Indira Gandhi became Congress president, and it was the Kerala government that was first disbanded and dislodged. Quite rich coming from the Congress party.
Yes, can I answer
Quite
you?
rich coming from the Congress party, trying to preach saving of Samvidhan, till the time they say, sir, the ghost of past will continue to haunt. Every time you point a finger, sir, sadly in this case, you will have not 3 but 9 pointing back at you. That's the reality. I thank you. Sir, I have to move on. I've got a packed show.
In a country where a stand-up
comedian
cannot perform, there is no democracy.
Sir, in a country where Lata Mangeshkar was ostracized, Kishore Kumar was banned, and Raj Kapoor was threatened, his movies were blocked, Mohammad Rafi had to leave the country, Devanand was censured. This is all in just 21 months, sir. All in just 21 months.
Shall I name to
so
you
quite
the
rich,
state
sir.
of Bollywood
Quite rich
today?
coming. Sir, like I said, sir,
Bollywood
quite
today?
rich coming from the Congress party, because they have lots of skeletons. Unless they try and come clean with all of them themselves, it's going to come back. Like I said, one finger you point at the establishment today, 9 will come back pointing at you. That's the case. That's itihas. That's how it happened. Thank you very much. 50 years of emergency. There are a lot of facets. Perhaps this generation and the generation that was born thereafter does not realize of what happened at that horrific time. Joining us now, Editor Thuglak, Professor Gurumurthy, who's seen those days. He's written against it. He's been quite vocal about it. Professor Gurumurthy, namaskaram. Thank you for your time, sir. I want to ask you, sir, straight. Was it the jailing of the opposition and the issue with the courts and the media, or was it the altering of the constitution, changing its very DNA? Which of the two hurt Bharat more?
See, it hurt Bharat more, the excesses of what was called the excesses of emergency, hurt Bharat more during that 18-month period. But what would have hurt it eternally and converted it into a single party dynastic autocracy had the 42nd Amendment, which was authenticated and which the president signed and came into effect on the 2nd of January 1977. Mrs. Gandhi, or the emergency cabal, had converted India from a multi-party democracy into a single party dynastic autocracy by Article 32A of the Constitution brought in by the 42nd Amendment. It said the government can by executive order ban any organization which, for example, calls for a strike, which can be called communal. Or, for example, if it launched a movement like a Ram Janmabhoomi movement, or if it adopted Hindutva, or if it had a caste orientation, OBC parties. That is, all other parties, then the Congress could be fitted into the definition of unlawful associations. So if Mrs. Gandhi had won the elections in 1977, which was her idea and which she thought was a foregone conclusion, and if the elections had been won by the Congress, it is this constitution. See, 42nd Amendment is being talked in terms of affecting federal structure, this, that and the other. This Article 32A converted India into an autocracy. This is not debated at all. It is surprising it was not debated even at the time when emergency was being debated during the Janata Party period. They only talked about exercise, somebody being in jail, somebody. Surprising, even today this aspect has not been properly focused and it has not come in the narrative. So I believe that this is the most fundamental idea of Mrs. Gandhi, that it is not only the emergency should be perpetuated. Of course, it had many provisions which would perpetuate the emergency also. But the most important thing is to transform the character of India itself from a multi-party democracy into a single party dynastic autocracy. And this law cannot be challenged. This particular amendment could not be challenged because the Article 32, which gave the right to enforce the fundamental rights itself, was modified. So this aspect is the most critical aspect in my view. And even now, when Rahul Gandhi holds the constitution, the question I ask is, which constitution are you holding? It is the constitution which the Janata Party brought in. It is not the constitution of your grandmother. So if you are saving the constitution, you must hold that constitution and say, I will save the constitution brought in by my grandmother. So it is, Rahul Gandhi did not know these things, and that is why he held the constitution. And that was a full toss he bowled at Modi. He immediately grabbed it by his response, saying that it is Constitution Hatya Day. And now he has brought the whole emergency back into debate, for which Rahul Gandhi must be thanked.
But Professor Gurumurthy, the aspect of the preamble being altered, even when the Janata Party government came, nobody discussed this. How can you insert words like socialist and secular and get away with it? That change also, does that not change and alter the entire dynamic of Bharat itself? And this word secular has been debased to a level where it no longer stands for what it actually is supposed to mean. And did that not alter the political landscape also? And why should a nation be driven by its preamble to always look at a socialist point of view? We could change with the times in terms of how we should be. Or did that not matter?
You see, you must understand, Janata Party was not one cohesive party. It was a jumbling up of 4 different parties into one for the single purpose of defeating Mrs. Gandhi, which it achieved. The moment Janata Party achieved it, Janata Party had nothing else to do as a common agenda. So there were socialists and there were people like Charan Singh and the Rural Trust and the Caste Trust and the remnants of the Congress Party, the Congress O. The only party which had a different philosophical orientation was the BJP, which emerged out of the Janata Party. Previously it was Janasangh. So that the Janata Party should have done this, why did not do? Because Janata Party could not agree on removing the word socialist. It would not agree on removing the word secularism. And so, when they cannot agree, the party which is to amend the, undo the article, 42nd Amendment, could not agree on, then they allowed it to continue. According to me, this makes no sense, these two terms. Because does anyone talk about socialism today? Because socialism has become irrelevant. In the same way, secularism, the perverted secularism, has become irrelevant. The secularism of 1975, 77, later, is not the secularism today. We are talking about a very different kind of secularism.
Yes.
Sarvapanta Samabhava is probably the legitimate definition of secularism. That minorityism is secularism is gone. Politically, the definition of secularism has changed. And so to say that the secularism should be removed, an undefined word being there in the Constitution, in my view, it makes no sense. It is no more the Constitution preamble being the key to the Constitution will not apply to either secularism or socialism.
But Professor Gurumurthy, the Congress today has said there is an unannounced emergency, undeclared emergency in Bharat today under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership. How do you want to respond to the likes of Mr. Kharge, Mr. Rahul Gandhi?
They do not know about emergency. Undeclared emergency is an oxymoron. There cannot be an undeclared emergency. Could there be an undeclared emergency in 1975? Not possible. So, emergency has to be declared, fundamental rights have to be suspended, courts have to be shut down, the media has to be gagged, it must all be open. This is what is emergency. To say that we will do all this without declaration is an oxymoron. It's not possible. It is only a cliche. Any strong leader could be regarded as autocratic because the man is able to do things. For example, Mrs. Gandhi, between 1971 and till about 73, she was a strong leader. She did things. But she began doing wrong things. What is the wrong thing? She superseded the Supreme Court judges. Then she began showing the tendency towards becoming a dictator. And her DNA as a dictator came out. Of course, Matai writes about it. She is basically a dictator. And I don't know whether you are aware of the notings that Tandon, her joint secretary, made. I don't know, it's worth reading. I don't want to burden you with reading it. On 31st December 1974, 6 months before the emergency, he notes that something is brewing. The problem is the Prime Minister. She is becoming intolerant. And she doesn't want to hear any other views than her own. And such people tend to be fascist and autocratic. And he sees something of that kind emerging. He is sitting in the PMO, watching her every day. So, even that was not emergency. Only when she declared the emergency, the country became what it is. So to say that undeclared emergency exists is to obviate their having to explain their emergency. Another, till now the Congress has not apologized for emergency.
Yes. That's been raised by the BJP. Yeah.
Yes, Rajiv Gandhi, on record, Rajiv Gandhi told the parliament in July 1975 that if need be, he will impose emergency. Because this is what he told the media, and Madhu Dandavate raised it in the parliament. And he said, if need be, I will impose emergency. That stand has not been contradicted even today. Why? What worries me is the alternative to Narendra Modi is the Congress, which has still not apologized for emergency. And how do I trust you with power when you think that emergency was right? And in 1989, it is on record. I think this article appeared, if I remember right, in Times of India, that Rajiv Gandhi called the, I remember forget the name of the journalist, he called him and said, you write a note that we have to distance ourselves from emergency. And he wrote a very detailed note. He was assisting the Congress party. Rajiv finally called him and told him, no, drop it. I don't want to change the position. So now you are saying emergency is an aberration. So Article 32A to institute dynastic autocracy is an aberration. 42nd Amendment is an aberration. And I'm not talking about the 39th Amendment, which they rushed through in 3 days. All the state assemblies passed. For what? That the judgment rendered by the Allahabad High Court should be undone.
Yeah.
And half an hour debate, 45 minutes debate, and you do it. I can understand, okay, you wanted to save the Prime Minister and she would have been in power for 1 more year. That's all right. I can understand you use the emergency powers for that. But 12 months you prepared the nation. Nation means you prepared the entire system. The media, Indira is India, India is Indira, and came out with this 42nd Amendment, passed it by December 1976, and it was notified on January 2nd, and you called the elections on January 18th for what? Because you have settled everything. That once this country endorses the emergency, we are through. Afterward, there is no. That is institution of dictatorship. I'll tell you, I will quote. I and my colleagues received Advaniji when he was coming from Bangalore in Madras railway station. So we all adjourned to a room to discuss. That was the day he had been released. If I remember it was the 19th of January. I asked Advaniji, what are we going to do? Advaniji said, we are all in a state of shock. First by emergency and now by the elections. Emergency had not been lifted. He said, if we contest the elections and lose, for which only there is a possibility, because we don't have money, our organizations are in shambles, our leaders are our cadre is in jail. If we lose, she will say she has got the endorsement of the people. Let's assume you don't contest. You guys can't even contest the elections. You are run out of the field. This is the choice Mrs. Gandhi gave.
Heads I win, tails you lose.
Which means she had planned that this election, these guys will lose or will not contest, and my constitution, this single party dynastic autocracy will prevail. The rigor or the barbaric nature of the emergency has to be seen in the case, fundamental rights case, in the MISA case, which the Supreme Court heard. On the 16th of December, Justice H.R. Khanna confronted the Attorney General. So Attorney General, you say fundamental rights are suspended. Article 21 includes the right to life. Do you mean the right to life is suspended? Is it consistent with my submission? That is also suspended. Is it, if a police officer takes a pistol and shoots down somebody, a détenu, There is no judicial remedy. He said, it may shock your conscience, my lord, as it does in my case, that if such a thing happens, there is no judicial remedy. This is the instruction given to the Attorney General to say persons can be killed during the emergency. 70 people died in detention. And Rajan, the engineering student, he was run over by road roller. It was admitted on affidavit by the former Chief Minister, who was the Chief Minister then, Karunakaran, on affidavit before the Kerala High Court.
Fair point, sir. Fair point made. Professor Gurumurthy, I'm going to pause now. We're going to continue this conversation soon. Have limited time, but thank you so much. Thank you for your time as always, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaskaram, sir. Well, big news coming through. It's a setback to the Congress party as the Bombay High Court has, they've been repeatedly harping around Aji-Baji during the assembly elections in Maharashtra, but the High Court has rejected the plea challenging the 2024 Maharashtra polls. The petition, as we are given to understand, was filed to claim that that there was something wrong with the elections. The court has said that it is nothing but a waste of time, this entire bogus voting. The petition was filed by a Chetan Ahire, alleged that over 75 lakh votes were polled after the official closing time of 6 p.m. He also claimed that there were several discrepancies in almost 95 constituencies wherein the number of votes polled and the number of votes counted did not match. Now, Rahul Gandhi had also tried to say, and Congress had tried to ask, how is it that the number of voters increased in Devendra Fadnavis's constituency, and there was a counter which said that year after year or election after election, the number of voters and the voter base in Maharashtra has only increased. But a big setback, whereas the courts, the division bench of justices Girish Kulkarni and Arif Doctor said the petition wasted the court's precious time as a whole day was spent in hearing the same. We have no manner of doubt that this petition needs to be rejected. Thus, this petition is rejected. The whole day of this court was wasted while hearing this petition. We were of the view that costs would be imposed on them, but we refrained from doing so. That's what Justice Kulkarni has pronounced in open court. Now, this is on a day where the undeclared emergency narrative was being peddled by the Congress party, and they were alleging and trying to point fingers at the ECI, Election Commission of India, and this is a big setback and jolt for the Congress party and its political narrative. Moving on, in a big news and perhaps a moment of pride for Bharat, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, Bharat's astronaut, made history as he took off for the International Space Station aboard the Axiom mission. It's after 41 years that a Bharatiya is in space. The mission, a joint venture between NASA, SpaceX and ISRO, marks a significant milestone for Bharat's presence in space exploration. And just after the liftoff, Shubhanshu sent a message from space. Namaskar, my dear countrymen. What a journey. Listen to this.
देशवासियों, what a ride! 40 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं और कमाल की राइड थी। इस समय हम 7.5 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की रफ्तार से पृथ्वी के चारों तरफ घूम रहे हैं और मेरे कंधे पे मेरे साथ मेरा तिरंगा है जो मुझे बता रहा है कि नहीं हूँ, मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ। ये मेरी इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन तक की जर्नी की शुरुआत नहीं है, ये भारत के ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत है और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सभी देशवासी इस यात्रा का हिस्सा बने। आपका भी सीना देखिए, चौड़ा होना चाहिए, आप भी उतना ही एक्साइटमेंट दिखाइए। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत की ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
We wish him and the entire crew all the very best. They've got a 2-week schedule, rigorous schedule. Shubhanshu's and his team are scheduled to conduct experiments, especially developed by ISRO. There are going to be experiments on studies of screen use, experiment on muscle atrophy, experiments on other cognitive effects. Overall, about 60 experiments have to be conducted on board. And this is an important milestone ahead of Bharat's Gaganyatri mission. Let's go straight across to someone who knows, who's been there, done that in space. Clayton Anderson, retired NASA astronaut, joins us. Namaste, Clayton. Thank you so much for your time. My first question, this mission saw multiple delays before liftoff on the 25th of June. And I'm sure you've encountered such delays too. What does the astronaut go through? What did you go through?
I did. I think most astronauts do. Delays are part of the game. Delays are unfortunate, but they're oftentimes necessary because we always want to be safe with what we're doing, right? We do not want to do anything that jeopardizes the crew, the vehicle, and the mission success. So I found my time at the Cape to be okay. Oftentimes it was boring, right? The Kennedy Space Center is a huge place. There's not much to do except to exercise, to wander the grounds, to perhaps run a little bit, exercise. I know that's what the crew does. I do not know the degree of technical review that they're doing. I know that they're planning on 60 experiments or something like that during their short time in the space station. And so it's possible that they're making notes, that they're reviewing their previous notes, that maybe even trainers are there to help refresh them on what they're going to do. That helps to pass the time. And of course, they always take the opportunity to speak with family and friends. They're relatively limited being in quarantine as to how close or how intimate they can be with their family members. So that's always kind of a strain, at least it was for me, because I had very young kids at the time, and the inability to reach out and hug them and touch them and kiss them and all that good stuff made it kind of difficult. But they're only going to be up for a couple weeks. So I was scheduled to be up for 5 months, so it was a little different.
Well, there is that time lag is different, but let's hope they come back soon. Your advice to Shubhanshu, because it's a big mission for Bharat. This is a precursor to our Gaganyatri.
Well, I think he wouldn't be there if he wasn't qualified. I'm sure he's an incredible human being. I look forward to meeting him someday. I've not met him yet. I would tell him to just relax. I would tell him to trust the training, trust the process, learn from Peggy Whitson. She's been there many, many, many times. She understands what's going on. I think she sees the big picture. And I would encourage him to look at that big picture, to not get so absorbed into the details that he forgets to step back and view it, because he has a role that no one in India has ever had. He is the person. He is the pilot of the SpaceX Crew Dragon. He is quote unquote second in command in that vehicle. But people are looking to him, and you're looking to expand your space program. And so this is really cool time for him. This is a time for him to absorb as much as he can, to learn as much as he can, to be forthcoming and transparent to everybody at ISRO, because it's important that he share the good and the bad. But I think he's very excited. I can almost guarantee he's hugely excited, right? And the ability to see space for the first time off of the planet will be mesmerizing to him, especially now. There's a space station cupola. The SpaceX Dragon has windows. It's just going to be a great experience for him. So I would say relax, see the big picture, and step back and just enjoy it.
I was about to ask you about the first time. What would Shubhanshu be feeling? What did you feel when it was your first time in space?
Well, for me, my first trip, I wasn't scheduled to launch with STS-117 originally. I was supposed to go with STS-118 in August of 2007, and they moved me up to June of 2007. So I was with a crew that I hadn't trained with very much. I felt very much an outsider. Quick example, the crew went for a crew run at the Kennedy Space Center. They all got up and they went for a run, but they didn't invite me. And I was like, I got up that day and I walked around crew quarters and I go, where the hell is everybody? And they were all out running on a crew run, but they didn't take the whole crew. So that won't happen to any of these guys. But I think that for me, I was nervous. In the astronaut office in America, there's a lot of pressure to not make a mistake, right? You never want to be the person that screws something up. And so that's why you have to just relax, and you have to trust your training. You have to consider yourself prepared, and that when you get into that situation, all that training will kick in,
Right.
and you'll be ready and you'll do the right thing. And I think that's very much what will happen to these guys. So as you get ready to do it, there's lots going on there. It's hard to absorb everything that happens on your first launch day. But it's going to be an incredible day for all of them, I think.
Yeah, memorable moment perhaps, and not very few can experience this. He's only the second Indian after squadron leader Rakesh Sharma. But how's the shift from gravity to no gravity? Is it difficult?
I didn't have a difficulty transitioning from Earth to microgravity, but I did take medication. I was not on the flight deck of the shuttle, so I was not the commander or the pilot. So for your astronaut, he is the pilot, so I don't know what those protocols are these days. And so it's possible he'll experience some space adaptation sickness, and he'll get queasy and sweat a little bit. He might even have to throw up in a bag, but that passes quickly. Your body is an amazing adapter for going from the Earth's environment to the space environment. And the other piece of it, when he finally looks out the window and sees the Earth from above, it just takes your breath away. And I think that that's probably what they may be looking forward to the most, is that first view of the Earth. It'll be interesting to see, and I've never been in a SpaceX capsule, so I don't know how the technology works. I know it's much different from the shuttle era that we flew back in the 2007 timeframe, but it's so automated, it's so computer driven, and it's very sophisticated. And so I'm hoping they'll have some time to look out the window and enjoy that view, because you're going to get right into the work role. You're going to get right into I got to do this, and then I got to do this, and then I got to do this. And I hope that their timeline is not too compressed. I hope that they have time to relax. They'll visit the station. They'll meet with the crew on board. They'll find out where the safety fire extinguishers and the gas masks and all those things are. And so they'll get a nice orientation. But then they'll actually, probably get right to work, because if they've got 60 experiments, they've got a lot of setup to do to be able to gather that data over a short time period in space. So I was a little nervous, but when I first got to space and I was able to not be sick, I was able to help. I was able to contribute and work. Wow. And I think that was an important part, is you get thrust into the work environment, and time just begins to pass so quickly.
Yeah, it does. But Clayton, how is that literally out of the world experience? Because you see Earth right behind you and the vastness of space in front. What does it make you feel?
Yeah, I think that, astronauts like to talk about the orbital perspective and the mission overview effect, where a human goes above the Earth, looks back on the planet, and sees the beauty of it. And yeah, it does change your thought process. I'm all in on that. But for me, I'm a man of Christian faith. And as I looked at the Earth, what I saw was none of this is random. This is all ordered, right? And to me, it just strengthened my faith in God. So people react different ways. We're all on the spaceship Earth. We're all crewmates on Earth. That's true. Unfortunately, though, when you take that perspective, we have to look at the hatred and jealousy and envy that's out there in the world, right? We're experiencing it today. There's incredible instability in the Middle East right now, right? And if we have that as humans, where there are groups that do not like the other group, or that are jealous or envious or hate them, it's going to be very difficult to all be on one spaceship Earth, right? To all be one crew together. I think that's the goal, and I think that we should continue to press for that goal. And that's why this mission is so important, because we're bringing brand new astronauts from brand new countries into the space race, and that's incredibly important.
Well, they're scheduled to dock at 16:30 hours on Thursday. And Clayton, we look forward to speaking with you yet again. Wonderful to speak with you. Thank you so much. On that note, we're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we have the Goa Chief Minister, Shri Pramod Sawant, taking the right stand on a day we mark 50 years of emergency. Stay with us.
dangerously cold.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
SpaceX and ISRO marks a significant milestone for India's presence in space exploration. If successful, Shubhanshu will become the second Indian to reach the orbit after Rakesh Sharma in 1984 and the first Indian to visit the International Space Station. NASA shared the latest update on the mission, confirming the revised schedule, and according to NASA's official statement, Axiom Mission 4 is now scheduled to launch at 12:01 p.m. today as per the Indian Standard Time. Originally set to launch on May 29th, the mission faced multiple delays due to technical repairs on the spacecraft and the launch pad, as well as unfavorable weather conditions. Now, the most recent delays pushed the mission to June 8th, then June 11th, and finally, the new date was revised to the 22nd of June. So finally today, 25th of June is when it finally happens. Shubhanshu Shukla on board Axiom Mission 4 is going to head to International Space Station after Rakesh Sharma. He's only the second Indian to be doing that, and the first to visit the ISS. So that becomes rather important. We've already been speaking to his family members. They are quite elated with this historic feat that Shubhanshu is about to achieve. My colleague Shrishti has been following all of those details, also speaking to the family members of Shubhanshu Shukla. Shrishti, an important day today. After much delays, finally, fingers crossed, that mission takes off today.
Yes, definitely. Good morning. The countdown has begun, and as of now, everything looks good. The weather conditions are also like 90% favorable. So we really hope that the mission really takes off at around 12 noon. The 4 astronauts have been in quarantine for almost 3 weeks now, so they are ready. They bid their goodbye, and within the next 2 to 3 hours, the mission is going to take off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Remember, this marks the second space flight for India and the first ever to the International Space Station. ISRO has collaborated with Axiom Space for this mission, and it's a high-stake mission because the Indian Air Force pilot, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, is going to the space for the very first time. And remember, he's one of the astronauts who's also being trained for India's first ever, human space flight, Gaganyatri, which is scheduled to take off in the year 2027.
Also, Srishi, I was mentioning about how you'd spoken to the family members of Shubhanshu Shukla. Of course, they were talking about, what his mannerisms have been ever since that news has come out and how he has responded to it, and the fact that he is dealing with his absence away from the family, but he's really elated and excited about going to the International Space Station. So what have they really mentioned about this historic achievement of Shubhanshu's?
Definitely, Griya. So the family has been really waiting. We spoke to Group Captain Shukla's parents and his elder sister Shuchi, and they all talked about how he has been really patient and how he's somebody who maintains his calm and is very is able to navigate the challenges that he has in life. And see, Shukla, he's a test pilot. He's a trained test pilot with the Indian Air Force, so he's trained to navigate these challenges. He has flown so many aircrafts before, so this is the first time he's flying a spacecraft. But he has this really calm demeanor, which helps him, which makes him a really good candidate.
Back live, and Donald Trump has said that the US will meet Iran with sometime next week. That's the big news that's just come through at this point. Trump has come out and said that we will talk to Iran next week. We may sign a deal. I don't care about an agreement except for nuclear. So his focus is going to be that Iran commits to not enriching uranium to weaponize it. That's the whole thing. The entire nuclear mission with the weaponization mission of Iran, that's where Trump's focus is. But he's gone on to say something interesting. So you just said you believe the conflict between Israel and Iran is over. What makes you so confident? Trump has said, because I dealt with both and they're both tired and exhausted. Can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. And then another question that's been asked, are you interested in restarting negotiations with Iran? Trump says, I'm not. The way I look at it, they fought and the war is done. So that's what he has said. As of now, he's saying that he's going to meet the Iranians next week. Is he going to be with President Pezeshkian? We'll have to wait and watch. But as of now, it looks like the focus is only to ensure that Iran puts a stop to its nuclear mission. Uneasy lies this truce between Israel and Iran, with the US President Donald Trump saying this will hold. But the larger question is, were the objectives of this entire fight, this 12-day war, actually met? Because all three sides, the US, Israel and Iran, seem to have different positions on what was the objective and what was achieved. Joining us now is Alex Gandler, Deputy Spokesperson, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Israel. Alex, namaste. Thank you for your time.
Shalom, Anand. Shalom.
Let us first understand what was Israel's stated objective here.
Well, that's a great question. It's more than one. We're talking about two objectives in total. One was obviously the nuclear program of Iran, the program to reproduce weapons of mass destruction. And the second one was its ballistic program, which is one of the triad that is needed in order to launch nuclear missiles. So our goal was to destroy the nuclear program and the ballistic missile program. And as you probably have seen, one of those was used on Israel. We were shot at with more than 550 ballistic missiles together with 1,000 drones, or even a bit more than 1,000 drones.
But Alex, were both these objectives actually met? Let's take the ballistic missile program. The last day of this war, soon around the time that ceasefire was announced by President Trump, Beersheba was pounded. And we saw that despite 12 days of heavy strikes by Israel, Iran continued to have some ballistic missiles and missile capability and the ability to hit Israel. So has that objective actually been met?
Well, I think we've achieved much in both those objectives, more so probably in the nuclear objective. It's a bit easier because the amount of nuclear sites that we could know about and hit was very clear. We knew where Natanz was, where Fordow was, where Isfahan was. Regarding the ballistic missiles, it's a bit harder. They're a bit more spread around Iran. And as you know, Iran is a tiny bit bigger than Israel, about 18 times bigger than Israel. Israel with the size of the population of Tehran of 10 million people, whilst Iran is 90 million people. It's a very big country. There's a lot of places where they can hide either the manufacturing or the storage of the ballistic missiles. But we've managed to hit it quite a bit. We presume that we have hit at least 30% of the rocket launchers, which are very important. You can have as many missiles as you want. Unless you have the launchers, you cannot shoot them. So 1/3 of them are gone, which diminishes the capacity to shoot the missiles. And the second part is we have hit a lot of missile sites as well, including planetary mixers, which make the fuel for the rockets and so on. So it's harder for Iran to make those missiles. I'm sorry, I'm saying rockets and missiles interchangeably, but I mean missiles because they're very precise and because they are drivable as well. I will mention one more thing. Iran was on its way. That is one of the things we discovered and why we decided to attack it, was on its way to develop the capability to produce more than 20,000 rockets in the next couple of years, together with the launchers that are accompanying them. If they would have done that, I think because Israel is such a small country, such a small target, it's not a big target you can hit and spread around, such a small target, we would be in a very dangerous problem. It would be an equivalent for us to nuclear weapons held by Iran.
As Israel has often said, it was an existential threat that they had to preempt. But let's come to the nuclear program. Now, there are varying claims that are being made. there are reports now that surface, which also marry with the satellite images, that Iran has been able to cart out at least 400 kilograms of enriched uranium enriched up to 60%, which then means that they have the capacity in the near future to build at least 10 nuclear warheads. Now, do you confirm, deny this, or is that a possibility?
Well, listen, it's a possibility. I think both us and our American partners have been closely following that development, and we've heard it on the news as well. It's a possibility. I cannot deny that. But also we know that we've hit both Natanz and Fordo very effectively, which means the centrifuges in those sites are gone, which means we have delayed the Iranian nuclear program at least by a number of years. And I think it's more important to think of the state of mind of Iranian leadership at the moment, not just their capability of doing so or not, because we've also eliminated some of their top scientists that led the program and so on and so forth. The question is whether Iran is not only capable, but does it want to do it now? We've crossed a threshold, mental threshold, both for us and Iranians. The talks about attacking the nuclear sites in Iran have been going on for a while. I'm sure in your illustrious journalistic career, you have heard of it at least once. But we've passed it. We have done it. We have attacked Iran and its nuclear capabilities, and we're ready to do it again. We have proven our capability, and we're hearing from our American partners, and especially President Trump, that he's on the same war footing, which means, yes.
Sorry, that's where the confusion is, because the Iranians say their nuclear program continues. It's not been hurt as much as as President Trump claims that it has been hurt, and that it's not that they've been set back by decades, but just by a mere few months. Somewhere one gets the feeling that Iran will now redouble its efforts to become a nuclear-tipped nation. So how is Israel going to handle that? Although President Trump says they will deal with it militarily, so does that mean that there is another conflict brewing immediately?
Well, to save face, I think Iran would say it. I don't know if you've shown pictures of it on CNN 18, but you've probably seen the Iranian jubilation of winning the war yesterday in Tehran. I'll leave it up to your viewers to decide whether Iran won this war or not. But I think Iran, both on the domestic stance and the international stance, is trying to save face. It's trying to prove that it was not completely surprised and won over in 12 days. So I'll leave it to them to say what they want, but I'll tell you this. We feel that we've achieved much. We feel that in these 12 days, we've achieved most, if not all, of what we wanted, both physically, as I said, but most importantly, think mentally. Iran now understands that if they regain their desire to produce weapons of mass destruction, there are people that can stop them. And
we're going straight across to Goa Chief Minister Shri Pramod Sawant, who's joining us live. Pramod Sawant ji, namaste. बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद. संविधान हत्या दिवस के रूप में इस दिन को मनाया जा रहा है जब 50 साल होते हैं इमरजेंसी के. आपने एक बहुत इमोशनल पोस्ट किया था आज फेसबुक पर, कोट था उसका, जहां आपने कहा कि आपके पिता श्री पांडुरंग सावंत जी ने इमरजेंसी का विरोध किया था, लेकिन 40 साल तक उन्हें इसके लिए कष्ट झेलना पड़ा. ज़रा विस्तार से बताएं.
जी हाँ, पर जैसे इमरजेंसी पूरे भारत देश में लगी थी, उसी तरह से इमरजेंसी गोवा में भी लगाई थी. गोवा में तब के आरएसएस के लीडर, गोवा के फ्रीडम फाइटर्स, अखिल भारतीय विद्यार्थी संघ के सभी लीडर्स इमरजेंसी के खिलाफ गोवा में भी लड़ रहे थे. उनमें आपके गवर्नर श्री राजेंद्र आर्लेकर, उनके पिताजी दादा आर्लेकर, दत्ता भिकाजी नायक एबीवीपी के ज्येष्ठ नेता है गोवा से, उनके साथ में हमारे पिताजी भी इमरजेंसी के खिलाफ वो भी लड़े थे. ढेर सारे लीडर्स को बिहाइंड बार्स किया गया. गोवा में भी 21 महीने के लिए ढेर सारे भारतीय जनता पार्टी और आरएसएस के लीडर बिहाइंड बार थे. मेरे पिताजी एक्चुअली गांव लेवल पर, हमारे तालुका लेवल पर इमरजेंसी के खिलाफ लड़ रहे थे वो अंदर तो नहीं गए, लेकिन उनको भी यानी बहुत ही तकलीफ दी गई। तब के सरकार की जो सरकार थे यानी हमेशा के लिए उनको यानी उनको बाद में उसके खिलाफ यानी हमेशा के लिए वो इमरजेंसी के खिलाफ लड़ने वाले लीडर बोल के कहा गया।
पर उन्होंने इतना अपमान उन्हें क्यों सहना पड़ा? आपने कहा 40 साल तक अपमान झेलना पड़ा जब तक आप एमएलए नहीं बने। ये कौन लोग थे?
एक्चुअली उसके बाद में जो गोवा में असेंबली की इलेक्शन कॉन्टेस्ट हो गई तो जनता पार्टी तभी यानी जनता पार्टी की तरफ से उन्होंने 4 जगह पे इलेक्शंस गोवा में लड़ी थी। वहाँ पे डिफरेंट वास्को, मडगांव, पेंजिम और मेरी खुद की कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी वहाँ पाली। पाली के कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में मेरे पिताजी जनता पार्टी, वहाँ जो उनका जनता पार्टी का तब का नांगरदरी शेतकरी जो चिन्ह था उसके टिकट पे यानी जनता पार्टी के खिलाफ, जनता पार्टी के समर्थन पे इलेक्शन लड़ा था। तो लोग जब कांग्रेस, यहाँ पे कांग्रेस और महाराष्ट्रवादी गोमंतक पार्टी 2 ही पार्टी थी, तीसरी पार्टी तो गोवा में चलती नहीं थी। तब उन्होंने इलेक्शन कॉन्टेस्ट किया तो हमेशा के लिए उनको मॉक किया गया कि ये जनता पार्टी है, जनता पार्टी है। तभी कोई जनता पार्टी हो या बाद में भारतीय जनता पार्टी, इसका समर्थन कोई नहीं कर रहा था। 78 से लेके यानी टिल 1994 तक तो कोई यहाँ पे यानी भारतीय जनता पार्टी से एमएलए चुन के नहीं आया था। तो फिर लोग मजाक उड़ाते थे उनकी, क्योंकि रास्ते में जाते वक्त भी ये जनता पार्टी वाला है, जनता पार्टी वाला है, इस तरह से लोग मजाक उड़ाते थे।
ये जो फर्स्ट टाइमर्स, ओल्ड टाइमर्स है, उनकी बात जब कही जाती है तो काफ़ी वेदना उन्हें सहनी पड़ी, बट दे रिमेन कमिटेड टू द कॉज। आप तो उस वक्त काफ़ी छोटे रहे होंगे, यू मस्ट हैव बीन क्वाइट यंग, बट क्या आपके पिताजी ने कभी बाद में इसके बारे में, इमरजेंसी के बारे में आपसे विस्तार से बात की थी? क्या कहा था उन्होंने?
जी हाँ, मेरे पिताजी ने हमेशा के लिए संघ का, विश्व हिंदू परिषद का और बाद में भारतीय जनता पार्टी का काम करते रहे। तो मेरे पिताजी ने मुझसे बात करते वक्त, लोग चाहे कितने भी आलोचना करने दो, अपने खुद का काम समाज के लिए काम करते रहना चाहिए। और जैसे पिताजी ने यानी संघ, विश्व हिंदू परिषद, भारतीय मजदूर संघ और बाद में भारतीय जनता पार्टी, इनका काम करते रहे, तो उन्होंने मुझे एडवाइस भी किया तभी, यानी खुद का समाज के प्रति, लोगों के प्रति काम करते रहना। और वही काम यानी पिताजी ने बाद में भारतीय जनता पार्टी का काम स्टार्ट किया। और तब से यानी उसके बाद 1998 से लेके मैं खुद भारतीय जनता पार्टी, आई एम द सेकंड जनरेशन इन माय पार्टी, और तब से मैं खुद भारतीय जनता पार्टी का ग्राउंड लेवल से काम करते आया। और आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी में इस पोस्ट पर मैं पहुंचा, एमएलए, सभा स्पीकर और देन द चीफ मिनिस्टर।
बट प्रमोद सावंत जी, कांग्रेस टुडे इज सेइंग कि देश में अघोषित इमरजेंसी यानी अनडिक्लेयर्ड इमरजेंसी है, इस पर आपके क्या विचार है?
जी हाँ, कांग्रेस ने एक्चुअली 50 साल पहले आज के दिन पे जो इमरजेंसी डिक्लेयर किए हैं, और उस इमरजेंसी काल में चाहे वो अपोजिशन लीडर हो, चाहे वो द प्रेस मीडिया के पर्सन हो, चाहे नेशनलिस्ट लीडर हो, सबके फ्रीडम फाइटर्स हो, जिन्होंने सरकार के खिलाफ आवाज उठाया, तभी कांग्रेस ने यानी 21 महीने के लिए 21 महीने तक इन लोगों को यानी बिहाइंड द बार्स डाला। जो उनके खिलाफ बोलते थे या लिखते थे उनको बात करने के लिए नहीं दी। वही इमरजेंसी यानी खुद यानी तब की प्राइम मिनिस्टर इंदिरा गांधी, इन्होंने हम डेफिनेटली उनको कि डेमोक्रेसी नहीं चाहिए थी, डिक्टेटरशिप चाहिए थी, तभी इसीलिए तो उन्होंने इमरजेंसी लगाई थी।
प्रमोद सावंत जी, देखिए कांग्रेस बार बार चुनाव आयोग और चुनाव की प्रक्रिया पर आक्षेप करती रही है। आज फिर हाईकोर्ट, मुंबई हाईकोर्ट में भी वो एक केस हार गए हैं जहां कोर्ट ने उनके आरोपों को, महाराष्ट्र चुनाव से रिलेटेड, their allegations have been rejected by the court. But this entire allegation against the election commission and this चुनाव की प्रक्रिया, इन आरोपों को क्या आप स्वीकार करते हैं?
मैं इसमें एक बात कहूंगा, माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी के सरकार में इलेक्शन कमीशन हो, लोकपाल हो या आरटीआई हो, इस तरह के जितने सारे यानी पैरेलली जो संस्थाएं हैं, इनको मजबूत करने का काम किया है। और हमेशा के लिए कांग्रेस जब जीतती है, अभी कर्नाटक में इलेक्शन जीती तो समर्थन करते हैं कि जी हाँ, कि इलेक्शन कमीशन ने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है। और जहां महाराष्ट्र जैसे राज्य में इलेक्शन हारते हैं, तब इलेक्शन या ईवीएम को दोष देते आए हैं। ये तो इनका काम है, क्योंकि आपने देखा तो 50 साल में जिस तरह से बूथ कैप्चरिंग कांग्रेस के कार्यकाल में होता था, जहां पे वो इलेक्शन करने के लिए भी नहीं देते थे, यानी जो बूथ और वोटिंग काउंटिंग के वक्त जितना सारा मिसमैनेजमेंट करते थे, और उसी तरह से वो कुछ भी जीत के आते थे। इसलिए वो आज कभी कभी उनको मौका मिलता है तब इलेक्शन कमीशन पे वो आरोप करते रहते हैं।
प्रमोद सावंत जी, कुछ कांग्रेस के नेताओं का कहना है कि इमरजेंसी वाजंट ऑल दैट बैड, उस दौरान काफ़ी अच्छी चीज़ें भी हुई थी। आप इस बात से सहमत हैं?
मुझे लगता है कि कांग्रेस के लिए इमरजेंसी अच्छी चीज या गुड थिंग्स जो कुछ आप बोल रहे हैं कांग्रेस के लीडर, वो उनके लिए थे, देश के लिए नहीं है, जनरल पब्लिक के लिए नहीं, लोगों के लिए नहीं। मैं आई चैलेंज टू द एनी कांग्रेस लीडर, उन्होंने मुझे एक भी जो अच्छी बात हो गई है इमरजेंसी काल में वो उन्होंने दिखाई। मैं डिबेट करने के लिए उनके साथ में तैयार हूँ, क्योंकि उन्होंने जो इमरजेंसी काल में जो अच्छी बात कौन सी की इस देश के लिए वो बताए, चाहे वो कांग्रेस के खुद के लिए हो सकता है, जो कांग्रेस लीडर्स के लिए हो सकता है, आम जनता के लिए बिल्कुल नहीं है और देश हित में तो बिल्कुल नहीं। इसीलिए तो तब की उनकी सरकार गई और तब जनता पार्टी की सरकार आई। ये लोगों ने इनके खिलाफ जो कॉल दिया था, यानी खुद उनकी प्राइम मिनिस्टर कैंडिडेट भी वहां पे हारी थी, इसीलिए तो वो पूरे इलेक्शन तब हार चुके थे।
मोदी जी हो, अमित शाह जी हो या नड्डा जी हो, कई सारे नेताओं का कहना है, वरिष्ठ नेताओं का कहना है कि कांग्रेस मस्ट अपोलोजाइज फॉर द इमरजेंसी। डू यू एग्री?
जी हाँ, 100% आई एम फुल्ली एग्री विद ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी जी एंड होम मिनिस्टर अमित शाह जी। कांग्रेस ने अपोलॉजी मांगनी चाहिए, कांग्रेस ने अपोलॉजी संविधान की मांगनी चाहिए, देश की मांगनी चाहिए, लोगों की मांगनी चाहिए। जिस तरह से उन्होंने 50 साल पहले कांग्रेस और उनके लीडर ने इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की हत्या की है, तो इसके देश हित में उन्होंने संविधान और देश की माफी मांगनी चाहिए। यानी मुझे लगता है कि जी हाँ, मांगना जरूरी।
42nd अमेंडमेंट पे आप क्या कहेंगे? Did the Congress also alter the DNA of our country, of our constitution, Pramod Sawant जी?
जी हाँ, मुझे तब उन्होंने सिर्फ लोगों को और लीडर्स को जेल में नहीं डाला, उन्होंने जिस तरह से कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का उनको चेंज करना चाहिए था, जिस तरह से उसको मैंने मतलब निकालना चाहिए था, उसी तरह से उन्होंने निकाला। लेकिन देन गवर्नमेंट जनता पार्टी की जब सरकार आई तो उन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बचाने के लिए या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सब लोगों के लिए लोकतांत्रिक रखने के लिए हमेशा के लिए उन्होंने काम किया है।
But you would also accept that the जनता पार्टी that came thereafter, जो आई थी सक्सेसिव जनता पार्टी 78 में, उन्होंने भी इन गलतियों को नहीं सुधारा, कुछ को सुधारा 44th अमेंडमेंट में, बट प्रियम्बल को वापस ओरिजिनल शेप में नहीं लेके आए।
जी हाँ, तब की जब जनता पार्टी मोरारजी देसाई की जब सरकार आई तो उनमें से अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी भी मंत्री रह चुके थे और जनता पार्टी की सरकार और देन द भारतीय जनता पार्टी फॉर्म। बट तब की सरकार जो मिलजुल के जो सरकार बनी थी, तभी उन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन इंटैक्ट रखने का काम किया है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन सर्वतोपरि रखा। और तब से लेके आज जब जनता पार्टी बनी, भारतीय जनता पार्टी बनी, तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के हमारे लीडर और देश के प्रधानमंत्री, इनको संविधान सर्वतोपरि है। हम संविधान जिस तरह से गीता, बाइबल और कुरान को मानते हैं भगवान की, उसी तरह से कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन भी हमारे लिए यानी उसी ग्रंथ के रूप में हम उनकी पूजा करते हैं, उनका समर्थन करते हैं और सर्वधर्म समभाव के प्रति कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का हमेशा के लिए आदर करते आई है भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार।
प्रमोद सावंत जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर योर टाइम। थैंक यू फॉर स्पीकिंग विद अस। नमस्ते। Let's move on quickly to yet another mega CNN News 18 exclusive, and this is shifting sands of politics perhaps in South Asia. That's what this indicates with the SCO summit. Where is Pakistan totally, completely isolated, just ahead of Khwaja Asif, perhaps bumping into Rajnath Singh ji right thereafter for the first time after Operation Sindoor. Now at the SCO's, China sent a very strong message that our support is conditional, not guaranteed. Pakistan's isolation at the SCO comes from its international credibility erosion, faltering alliances and strategic ambiguity. China is subtly aligning with Bharat and upset with Pakistan due to Pakistan's double game. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh will travel to China to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Defense Ministers meet in Qingdao from the 25th of June to the 27th in his first such visit since Operation Sindoor. Pak Defense Minister Khwaja Asif will also attend the meeting. Meanwhile, top government sources at the SCO say that NSA Ajit Doval explicitly named Pak-based terror groups Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed as threats to regional security in the presence of Wang Yi, but no member state and not even China challenged this statement. Now, this silence reflected broad consensus on Pakistan's role in regional instability, weakening Islamabad's ability to counter Bharat's narrative. Earlier, China used to block any attempt by Bharat to name or shame Pakistan on multilateral fora. But this time, Beijing refrained from offering any diplomatic shield. Russia also avoided siding with Pakistan. SCO members increasingly engage Pakistan through military-backed channels, bypassing the democratic institution. This is also reducing Islamabad's multilateral credibility. Pakistan attempts to balance US, China and the Islamic world's interests, but this balancing act is now collapsing, and China's decision not to counter Bharat's statements on cross-border terrorism at the SCO was not mere neutrality. This was a tactical message by China to Pakistan. By allowing Ajit Doval's accusations against Pakistan to stand uncontested, Beijing tactically attempted to try and accepted India's security concerns, and also has shown that they want different regions or perhaps in terms of China's focusing on de-escalation along its contentious Himalayan border with Bharat. It also sees value in stabilizing ties with New Delhi to prevent Bharat's deeper integration into the US-led Indo-Pacific strategies. So there are multiple tugs and pulls, but Pakistan's got a message. Yes, they may be getting a latest shipment of the F-35s or the J-35s very, very soon, but that in August. But that military supply does not mean that they are going to get perhaps a diplomatic shoulder too. Now, China-India trade is also growing despite border tensions. China valuing this trade relationship more than the symbolic support to a diplomatically cornered Pakistan. Let's go across to Professor Brahma Chalani. He's joining us now. This is happening on the 75th year of Indo-China relationships. This is the first time that the Mansarovar route has been opened. The Chinese delegation is actually invited media also to travel with the first batch of people. Professor Brahma Chalani, how would you read this? Namaste, sir. Thank you for your time.
Anand, we should not forget that China and Pakistan share an interest in containing India. The maxim, my enemy's enemy is my friend, unites China and Pakistan. And for Beijing, the appeal of working with Pakistan is heightened by its ability to treat Pakistan as a client rather than as an actual partner. And we saw the kind of assistance China lends to Pakistan when India launched Operation Sindoor. China even retasked its satellites to cover Indian military sites so that Pakistan could target them. And it provided Pakistan, during India's Operation Sindoor, real-time satellite reconnaissance data. So it was an indirect party, a third party in the conflict, providing active military assistance to Pakistan during the military hostilities. And we have seen over the years, for example, how China has shielded Pakistan's export of terrorism. It has time and again blocked or held up the UN's designation of major Pakistani killers as global terrorists. And just last month, the US Defense Intelligence Report identified China as the main supplier of assistance to Pakistan's weapons of mass destruction programs. And lastly, we should not forget that despite this so-called thaw between India and China, China is still sitting on the borderlands in Ladakh that it occupied by stealth in April, May of 2020. So all this pretense that China is taking a more nuanced stance does not mesh with actual facts on the ground. The China-Pakistan strategic nexus will not loosen simply because for China, using Pakistan against India is a cost-effective strategy. It's a strategy that they have pursued for decades. There's no reason for China to abandon that strategy because India is not imposing any costs on China. For example, China is having its cake and eating it too. It's able to increase its yearly trade surplus with India while it continues to contain India. So why will China change its strategy?
Right. Right. So what should Bharat do? What should be Raksha Mantri's position? What do you think Ajit Doval would have conveyed? What's the significance of this move here? And the fact that China remained silent when Mr. Doval named Lashkar and Jaish. In the past, this has not been allowed. This has somewhere been smoothed over by the Chinese. They blocked it. So how do you read that?
Anand, China was the host. It doesn't have to rebut what the Indian NSA said about Pakistan's role. Why would China intervene and just on its own rebut what India's NSA said about Pakistan and its involvement in cross-border terrorism? It wisely decided not to intervene. But look at imagine a situation where roles were reversed.
Correct.
China was in India's place, and India was in China's place, and India was containing China, was building a super dam on China's border, was providing assistance to a third country to contain China. How would China have reacted? Would have reacted very sharply and on a continuing basis.
Right.
But look at India's response. We are allowing China to continue to expand its bilateral trade surplus. The bilateral trade surplus of China with India is now larger than India's total defense budget. In other words, we are subsidizing China's containment of India. Similarly, by building a super dam right on India's border, China is creating a ticking water bomb because they are building the super dam, the largest dam ever conceived in history, in a seismically active area, an area that is prone to earthquakes. And the recent Myanmar earthquake was an example of how this area sits on a geological fault line where the Indian plate collides with the Eurasian plate, and that's how the Myanmar earthquake was triggered. And yet they are building that super dam right there, and we haven't spoken up, other than issuing one statement of concern.
Correct.
But had China been in India's place, it would have, on a continuing basis, tried to shame India. It would have internationalized this issue. It would have gone to town about this and other things that India is now seeing in relation to what China is doing. So
right.
I don't think we should take small little things like China not rebutting what Ajit Doval said as indicative of a change in either China's mindset or its actual policy.
Right.
That change, I think, is going to be not coming anytime because Pakistan is a very useful client for China, a very useful client, an obedient client.
And they're far more deeply embedded there strategically also, and for their own needs. Professor Brahmachalani, I've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
On that note, we're going to wind up this edition of The Right Stand.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
SpaceX and ISRO marks a significant milestone for India's presence in space exploration. If successful, Shubhanshu will become the second Indian to reach the orbit after Rakesh Sharma in 1984. And the first Indian to visit the International Space Station. NASA shared the latest update on the mission, confirming the revised schedule. And according to NASA's official statement, Axiom Mission 4 is now scheduled to launch at 12:01 p.m. today as per the Indian Standard Time. Originally set to launch on May 29th, the mission faced multiple delays due to technical repairs on the spacecraft and the launch pad, as well as unfavorable weather conditions. Now, the most recent delays pushed the mission to June 8th, then June 11th, and finally, the new date was revised to this